involved in this? Was it all planned or a mistake?
It was supposed to be a quick stop, just a routine trip to the bank before I started my day. But when I walked up to the counter, I had no idea that this would be the moment everything would change. The air in the bank felt heavier than usual. As I approached the teller, I couldn't help but notice the way Miss Carlson, the bank manager, was watching me. There was something unsettling about the way she was standing, her gaze fixed, unblinking, like she was waiting for something to happen. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The moment she looked at me, I knew something was wrong. "Why was this balance withdrawn yesterday?" she asked, her voice flat but with an edge to it, as if I was supposed to have the answer. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean?" I stammered. My mind raced. I hadn't made any large transactions recently, and definitely not yesterday. I wasn't the type to take chances with my savings. The question hung in the air between us, thick with confusion. What was she talking about? Why was I being questioned like this? I had no idea why Miss Carlson was even asking me about my account. Something didn't add up. She glanced at the screen in front of her. "This withdrawal was made from your account yesterday. I need to know why." The words barely registered. How could there be a withdrawal I didn't make? I quickly pulled out my phone and checked my bank account app. My stomach dropped as I saw the transaction listed. The withdrawal was for a significant amount, way more than I'd typically transfer. I hadn't touched it. I wasn't the one who withdrew this money. Before I could form any more thoughts, Miss Carlson spoke again, her tone now softer, almost sympathetic. "I had to. It was urgent." Urgent? The word echoed in my mind as my anxiety skyrocketed. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. Was this some kind of mistake? And why was she looking at me like she knew something I didn't? Something that was happening right under my nose. People in line behind me were starting to take notice. I could feel their gazes boring into the back of my neck. Their whispers buzzed like bees, but I couldn't focus on them. All I could hear was the faint clicking sound of Miss Carlson typing away at her keyboard. She continued, her words careful, almost rehearsed. "This was a necessary withdrawal. You'll understand soon enough." I wanted to argue. I wanted to demand answers, to scream that this didn't make sense, but I was too stunned to say anything. My throat felt dry. And just as I thought she was about to continue, she stood up and walked around the counter, her heels clicking sharply against the tile floor. "Come with me," she said, her voice cool, almost like a command. I glanced around at the line behind me. The people waiting looked from her to me, their expressions unreadable, but I felt their eyes following me as I followed her toward the back of the bank. My mind raced with questions, but the only one that stuck was, who had access to my account and why? Miss Carlson's office was quiet, too quiet. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, and the sharp smell of printer ink filled the room. She motioned for me to sit. I hesitated for a moment, unsure whether I should just walk out. But something in her demeanor told me that if I left now, I might not get the full story. I sat down. The chair creaked under me, as though even the furniture was uncomfortable. "Do you recognize this name?" Miss Carlson asked as she handed me a piece of paper. I glanced at the name typed on it, Lily Green. The name meant nothing to me. I had never heard it before in my life. I shook my head slowly. "No, I don't know anyone by that name." Miss Carlson didn't seem surprised by my response. In fact, she looked almost like she had been expecting it. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. "Lily Green authorized this withdrawal on your behalf. The money was withdrawn in an emergency situation." She paused. "But the thing is, it seems to be part of something much bigger." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What do you mean bigger? What does that have to do with me?" I was starting to panic now. My breath quickened, my stomach churned. Miss Carlson's expression was unreadable. She folded her arms across her chest. "I understand this is a lot to take in, but you need to trust me. You're in danger, and this withdrawal was just the first part of a much larger issue. You may not even realize what's going on." Every word she said seemed to raise more questions than it answered. Danger? What did that even mean? How could I be in danger when I hadn't even made the transaction? I reached for my phone again, my fingers trembling. I quickly scrolled through my recent transactions, hoping for some explanation, but the more I looked, the less sense it made. There was no sign of unauthorized access, no message from the bank, no email alert, nothing that would have explained what had happened. And then, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the bank app. A temporary freeze had been placed on my account. That's when I knew this wasn't just a mistake. Someone was intentionally keeping me in the dark. I need you to understand, Miss Carlson said, her voice soft yet insistent. Lily Green isn't who you think she is. I stood up quickly, my mind racing in circles. This wasn't just a random mistake. Someone was pulling strings and I had no idea who to trust. I had to figure out who Lily Green was and why she had control over my money. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. The bank, the manager, and this mysterious withdrawal were all connected. But how? I couldn't leave yet. I needed answers. As I turned to face Miss Carlson, she stood too, her hand resting on a thick file on her desk. Sophia, you're not the only one who's been targeted. Her eyes locked onto mine. You need to act fast. It's not just your money at stake. I was about to speak when the door swung open, and a voice from the other side of the room froze me in place. We need to talk. The voice was unfamiliar, but it was enough to make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I looked at Miss Carlson and her expression hardened. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly off. There I was, standing in Miss Carlson's office, my hands sweating as I tried to process the information she'd just dropped on me. Lily Green? Emergency? Unauthorized withdrawal? It was like a jumble of confusing pieces that didn't fit together. But that voice, the one that had spoken from the other side of the room, sent a cold shiver down my spine. Who else was involved? Miss Carlson, I said, trying to steady my voice. Who is this person? Why would Lily Green be able to access my account without me knowing? She didn't immediately respond, she just stared at the file in front of her, her fingers nervously tapping on the edge of the desk. I'm trying to protect you, Sophia, she finally said, her voice low, but there's a lot at play here and I can't explain everything right now. I felt my frustration boiling over. What do you mean? You're telling me my money's been taken and I'm just supposed to sit here and trust you? How do I know you're not part of this? Miss Carlson's eyes flashed, just for a moment, but she didn't flinch. I'm not the one who's been messing with your account, and I'm not the one who authorized that withdrawal, but I do know why it happened. I leaned forward, my patience was wearing thin. Then tell me, why? She exhaled slowly, running a hand through her hair as if she were trying to gather her thoughts. You don't realize it, but you've been targeted. Someone is using you as leverage, and if I don't act fast, things are going to spiral out of control. My heart skipped a beat. Leverage? What are you talking about? What do you mean I'm being targeted? Not just you, she replied, leaning in closer. This has to do with your family, too. I was about to ask what she meant by that when the door swung open. I didn't even hear the footsteps, but the sound of the door creaking on its hinges sent a shockwave through me. There, standing in the doorway, was a woman I'd never seen before. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held an unsettling depth. Dark circles under her eyes suggested sleepless nights, but there was a sharpness to her demeanor that made me instantly wary. You must be Sophia, she said, her voice smooth and controlled. We need to talk. I stood frozen, unable to respond. This woman didn't just look like someone who had walked in off the street. There was something about her that screamed authority, a quiet intensity that felt almost dangerous. Miss Carlson quickly stood up, as if in a hurry to make the introductions. Sophia, this is Lily Green, the woman who authorized the withdrawal. The name hit me like a ton of bricks. Lily Green, the same name I had seen on the papers earlier, the same name I still didn't understand. I authorized the withdrawal, Lily repeated, but her tone was entirely different from Miss Carlson's. She spoke like she knew exactly what was going on. Her eyes locked onto mine, unblinking. But it's not what you think. I opened my mouth to speak, but my throat had gone dry. My entire world felt like it was slipping out of my control. First, I had been blindsided by Miss Carlson's question, then the discovery of the unauthorized withdrawal, and now, this woman Lily was stepping into the scene with an air of finality. You don't know me, Lily continued, but I've been trying to protect you from something you don't even realize is happening. Protect me? From what? Who was she? And why did she think she could make decisions about my money without my consent? Look, I don't know who you are or what you're talking about, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But what I do know is that someone took money from my account and I didn't give anyone permission to do that. Lily stepped closer, her presence as imposing as it was strange. I get that you're angry, and you're confused. You should be. But if you don't understand why I did it, you won't survive what's coming next. She said it without a hint of fear, as though she had seen this all before. I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream that she had no right to make decisions for me. But instead, I felt a cold unease settle in my stomach. What exactly had I gotten myself into? Why was this happening to me? Miss Carlson moved to sit down, her hands clasped in front of her as though bracing herself for something. Sophia, there's a bigger picture here. This is about more than just you, and you need to be prepared for what comes next. I was beginning to lose track of what was real. The world around me had started to feel warped, like I was in some sort of nightmare I couldn't escape from. Lily Green wasn't just some random person who had made a mistake with my bank account. She wasn't even an innocent bystander in all of this. She had a purpose, and that purpose was me. What is this all about? I asked, my voice shaking now. Who are you people, and why do you think I'm a part of this? Lily looked at Miss Carlson, who nodded almost imperceptibly. There was an unspoken understanding between them, one that made me feel even more like an outsider in my own life. Lily's eyes softened for a brief moment. I know you don't understand, Sophia, but that's part of the plan. You weren't supposed to. Plan? I repeated, my head spinning. What plan? What's going on? Someone is watching you, Lily said quietly, almost as if speaking to herself. Someone powerful, and they're using your bank account as a tool to get to you. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. This couldn't be real. None of it made sense. And if I don't stop them, the next thing they'll do is take everything you have, your job, your family, your life. She leaned in closer. But I don't think you'll let them get that far, will you? I had no idea who this woman was or what kind of game she was playing, but I knew one thing for sure. Everything in my life was about to change, and no one was telling me what was really going on. I don't want to be involved in any of this, I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. You don't have a choice, Miss Carlson said gently, her eyes filled with pity. They already know about you, Sophia, and now you need to be ready to face what's coming. Because if you're not, well, they won't just take your money, they'll take everything. Suddenly, the door to the office opened again, and a man walked in. I didn't recognize him, but his presence sent a wave of dread through me. Without saying a word, he handed Lily an envelope. She looked at it, her eyes narrowing as she read whatever was inside. Then, without warning, she stood up, her face a mask of determination. This just got worse, she muttered. The people we're dealing with are moving faster than we thought. We need to act now. I stood frozen. What's in the envelope? What's going on? Lily looked up at me, her expression grim. The truth is, Sophia, you've just become part of a game you never signed up for, and it's about to get a lot more dangerous. I couldn't breathe. My hands were clammy, my heart pounding in my chest as I stood frozen in that office, the weight of everything pressing down on me like a ton of bricks. Lily Green was standing there, looking at the envelope she'd just received, like it held the answers to everything, but all it did was raise more questions. What's happening? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the edge of something far darker than I had ever imagined. Lily's expression hardened as she looked up from the envelope. Her jaw clenched as she turned to face me. You've been marked, Sophia, she said, her voice steady but laced with a certain urgency. You've been marked and there's no going back. They're watching everything you do, every move you make. And the people behind this, they don't play by the rules. I shook my head, my brain scrambling to keep up. Marked? Who's watching me? Why? Miss Carlson, who had been silently observing, stood up and moved toward the desk. She motioned for me to sit down, her demeanor serious. We're running out of time. This isn't just a banking mistake. This isn't just a misunderstanding. Someone very powerful has set their sights on you, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. I sat down, my mind spinning. Who? What do they want from me? I'm just an ordinary person. But my words hung in the air, unanswered. Lily and Miss Carlson exchanged a glance, and for a moment, I thought they were going to tell me the truth. But then Lily spoke, her voice quieter now, almost too calm. There's a reason you didn't get that email alert, Sophia, she said, as if she were sharing a secret with me. It's because they've been watching you long before today, long before that withdrawal. They've been setting this up for months. I blinked in disbelief. Months? But how could I have missed it? What are you talking about? Lily leaned forward. They've had eyes on you since you first opened that account. You're not just anyone to them. Your name, it's part of something bigger. Something far beyond what you think you know about yourself. And now, you've caught their attention. Miss Carlson stepped forward, a look of sympathy in her eyes, but it didn't comfort me. They're using your finances as bait, Sophia. They're going after your money, yes, but that's just the beginning. They want control over you your entire life. I was starting to feel lightheaded, my pulse racing as I tried to process what they were saying. You're telling me someone's been manipulating my life from the start? Why? What do they want from me? Lily glanced at Miss Carlson again before answering, her voice low and deliberate. You're the key to something that has the potential to change everything, something they're willing to do anything to get. Just as I was beginning to feel like I was losing control of the situation, Lily handed me the envelope. The paper felt heavy in my hands, like it was more than just a piece of paper. It was a decision, a turning point. I ripped it open, my hands trembling. Inside, there was a single document, an official-looking letter with a logo I didn't recognize. As I read the letter, everything clicked into place. The truth was more disturbing than I could have ever imagined. The letter was from an organization I had never heard of, but its contents made my stomach churn. It detailed a massive financial conspiracy involving multiple banks, companies, and even law enforcement. And I was at the center of it all. The letter explained that a massive chunk of money had been funneled through my account by a group that had been operating in the shadows for years. I was unknowingly the pawn in their elaborate scheme. My name, my account, everything was being used as a front for something much darker. I dropped the letter onto the desk, my head spinning. This can't be real. This isn't happening. Lily's expression softened, but only for a moment. It's real, Sophia, and now they're coming for you. It's not just your money, they want your entire future. They want to control you. Miss Carlson moved to sit across from me, folding her hands on the desk. I was contacted to help you, Sophia. The bank is compromised, so is the system you've been relying on for security. There's only one way out of this. I looked between the two women, still trying to wrap my mind around what they were saying. What do you mean, one way out? Lily exhaled slowly. We need to get ahead of them, before they do something drastic. The withdrawal wasn't just a mistake, it was a signal, a warning. They want to see how you'll react. And right now, they're watching your every move. The air in the room seemed to thicken, pressing in on me from all sides. So, what do? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. How do I fight back when I don't even know who I'm fighting? Lily's eyes darkened as she met my gaze. You fight by being smart, by understanding who's behind all of this and why they want you in their control. They think you're a pawn, but you're not. You have more power than you realize, but it's going to take everything you've got to get out of this unscathed. I shook my head in disbelief. Power? What power? I'm just a regular person. Why would anyone want to use me like this? It's not about who you are, Sophia, Miss Carlson said, her voice grim. It's about what you represent. Your account was just the beginning. They want something much bigger, and they've got the resources to make sure they get it. At that moment, I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps outside the office. Someone was approaching. The tension in the room heightened as Lily stood up, her face serious. We don't have much time, she said, glancing at the door. They're close. You need to make a decision now, or it's going to be too late. I stood up abruptly, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on me like never before. What do I do? How do I stop this? Lily's response was chilling. You need to disappear. They can't control you if they can't find you. Cliffhanger. A sudden decision. Just as I was about to ask more questions, the door opened. A man walked in, and I immediately recognized the look on his face. It wasn't one of friendly intent. His eyes scanned the room, landing on me before moving to Lily and Miss Carlson. The man didn't say anything at first. He just took a step forward, his movements smooth, deliberate. We've found her, he said, his voice cold. I felt the blood drain from my face. They had found me. I felt my chest tighten as the man's words echoed in the room. We've found her. My heart stopped. They were here. The feeling of being trapped in the room with Miss Carlson, Lily, and this new, mysterious man was suffocating. I glanced nervously at the door. How had they found me so quickly? Was this part of the plan? The man was tall and broad-shouldered, with a sharp jawline and an icy calmness in his movements. He didn't need to introduce himself. I could already tell by his demeanor that he wasn't someone who took threats lightly. His eyes were scanning the room, calculating, observing every detail. Lily, he said, his voice steady, you didn't tell her everything. Lily met his gaze with a steely look of her own. It's not the time, James, she replied, her tone almost too calm. James shifted his attention to me, his cold stare sending a chill down my spine. You don't know what you're involved in yet, but you will. You need to understand that they won't stop until they've gotten what they want. They won't care who you are. They won't care what happens to you. Your money was just a start. What they really want is you. I blinked, struggling to keep up. I don't understand. Why would they want me? You're more important than you think, Lily answered, her voice surprisingly soft. She was standing across from me now, closer than before, but I didn't feel any more comforted. You're linked to something far bigger than just this withdrawal. It's not just about money, Sophia. It's about control. Control? I repeated, still trying to piece everything together. What do you mean? James stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. It's not just about your bank account. It's about your past, your family. Everything you thought you knew about your life has been manipulated. The people behind this, they've been pulling the strings for years, and your role in all of this goes back much further than you realize. I stared at him, my mind spinning. My past? What are you talking about? I don't know anything about this. Lily sighed, a hint of regret in her eyes. You don't know because we've kept it hidden from you. But now you're in too deep. It's too late to turn back. You need to know the truth. I felt a lump form in my throat. What truth? James stood behind Lily as she motioned for me to sit down again. This wasn't just some conspiracy anymore. It wasn't just an organization trying to drain my bank account. It was something much more personal, something that tied directly to me. You've been kept in the dark for a reason, Lily said softly, as if she were explaining a painful truth. Your family has been part of this operation for years. You've been used without your knowledge. I couldn't breathe. My family? What did they have to do with any of this? I don't understand, I whispered. How could my family be involved in this? What are you saying? James stepped in, his voice low but firm. Your family has ties to this organization, Sophia. From your grandfather down to your parents, they were all part of it. They helped set the stage for everything that's happened to you. I stared at him, the words sinking in slowly but painfully. You're saying my family, my parents knew about this? Lily's expression softened, and she took a step closer. No, not exactly. They didn't know the full extent of what was happening, but your grandfather did. And he was the one who set everything in motion. The money you've been saving, the account you opened, it was never just for you. It was always about them getting access to something far more powerful. What is it? I demanded, my voice shaking. What's so important about me? Why me? Lily's eyes met mine, and I could see the weight of everything she was about to say in her gaze. You're the key to something that's been hidden for generations, something your grandfather wanted to control, and now they think they can use you to gain that control. My mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of what I was hearing. None of this made sense. I couldn't fathom how my family could have been involved in something so dark. I grew up believing that they were just normal people, loving, kind. But now, it felt like everything I thought I knew was a lie. You're telling me that my family has been involved in some kind of secret operation for years, and that I'm a part of it? I whispered, feeling the weight of it all crash down on me. James didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped toward the window, looking out at the street below. They've been using your family's connections to infiltrate systems, to gather information, to manipulate people. It's all part of a bigger plan. And you, he paused, glancing back at me, you were always meant to be the heir to it. I felt sick. The idea that my family's legacy had been built on lies, manipulation, and power-hungry schemes was unbearable. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. Lily took a step forward, her voice steady but filled with empathy. You were never supposed to know this, Sophia, but you've been caught in the middle now. They're coming for you, and there's no way to stop them. What do they want from me? I asked, my voice shaking with the gravity of the situation. James answered, his voice calm but carrying a threat I could feel deep in my bones. They want control over you, Sophia. They want to use you as a pawn to achieve their goals. They think you can give them access to everything they need, and they won't stop until they have it. I didn't know what to say. How could this be my reality? The life I had known was collapsing before me, and I didn't know how to stop it. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I couldn't let them control me. I couldn't let them win. But what could I do? What choice did I have? There has to be a way out of this, I said, more to myself than to anyone else. There has to be a way I can fight back. Lily's expression softened as she looked at me. There is a way, but it's going to be hard. You'll need to trust us. You'll need to trust me. She glanced at James, who nodded slightly, his face hard to read. You're going to have to fight smarter than they expect, James added. We can help you, but you need to be ready to move fast. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to get out. I looked at them both, trying to process everything I had just learned. What do I need to do? Lily's eyes locked onto mine. First, you need to get out of sight. They'll be watching everything you do. The moment you stop acting normal, they'll make their move. I'm not going to let them take me down, I said, my voice steady now, a new resolve forming within me. I'll do whatever it takes. Lily and James exchanged a look before turning toward the door. Time's running out, James said, his tone grim. We'll have to move quickly. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the office, a crash, followed by hurried footsteps. The sound was too close, too familiar. Lily's eyes widened. They found us. We need to go. Now. I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through my veins. The chase had already begun. The moment the door slammed open, everything fell into place. The urgency in Lily's voice, the coldness in James's eyes, and the chaos outside the office. This wasn't just some random mix-up anymore. As we rushed toward the back exit, I could feel my heartbeat thudding in my ears. We were running out of time. This was real. This was happening. Lily and James led the way, moving quickly and with purpose. I tried to keep up, but my mind was spinning with the weight of what had just been revealed. The truth about my family, my grandfather's involvement, the secret organization. I was the key to their power. But I didn't know how to control it. I didn't know what it meant for me, for my future, or how deep this went. I could barely understand what was happening to my own life. We reached a nondescript van parked at the back of the bank, hidden from view. James quickly opened the door and motioned for us to get in. I hesitated for a moment, but Lily was already inside, her face set in determination. Get in, Sophia. We don't have much time. As I climbed in, I noticed a few more people inside, people who, like Lily and James, seemed like they knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't some random group of strangers. They were all connected to the same cause. As the door slammed shut behind us, I realized there was no turning back now. As the van sped through the city, I stared out the window, my mind racing. How had everything escalated so quickly? One moment, I was just living my normal life, and the next, I was being dragged into a world I didn't understand. A world of lies, manipulation, and dark power. I looked at Lily, who was sitting across from me, her eyes focused on something only she could see. She had always been one step ahead, it seemed. Always in control, even in the face of everything unraveling. But I could see the weariness in her expression now, the toll this had taken on her too. You said I was the key, I said, breaking the silence. What exactly does that mean? What's so special about me? Lily turned her gaze to me, and for the first time, I saw something soft in her eyes. Your family didn't just have power, they had influence. Your grandfather was one of the founders of this whole operation, and you, she paused, you were always meant to take over. They've been grooming you without you even knowing it. You. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling heavily on me. Grooming me? For what? Why would they want me in control of something so dark? You were never supposed to know, Lily continued, her voice low. They wanted you to remain in the dark, to live your life as if nothing had changed, but they couldn't keep you out of it forever. And now that you know, it's too late. My chest tightened. So, what now? What happens to me? Lily looked at me with an intensity I hadn't seen before. Now we fight. Now we take control back. They think you're just a pawn, but you're not. You can use everything they've done to manipulate you as a weapon. You have more power than you realize, Sophia. I leaned back against the cold seat of the van, trying to absorb everything she had just said. I wasn't sure if I believed it all, but one thing was clear. I couldn't just sit back and let this happen to me. I had to take control of my life. We arrived at an undisclosed location, a safe house far away from the city. The tension in the van had been palpable, but once we stepped into the small, dimly lit building, there was a brief moment of quiet. But it didn't last long. Lily and James quickly got to work, setting up a makeshift command center. The others who had been with us in the van, trusted allies, I assumed had already started making calls, tracking the movements of the people who had been hunting me. Lily turned to me. We need to get you off the radar. They're going to look for you everywhere. The withdrawal, the tracking, all of it, it's connected to you now. If we don't move quickly, we'll be too late. I nodded, my thoughts still clouded with the revelation of my family's involvement. My parents, my grandfather, none of them had ever mentioned this. How could they have kept something like this from me? You'll have to sever all ties, James said, interrupting my thoughts. You can't trust anyone you've ever known. Everyone is a potential threat. It's time to disappear for good. I swallowed, my mind racing. Disappear? What does that mean for my life? My job? My future? Your future doesn't exist if you don't get out of the game, Lily replied. We'll help you rebuild, but you have to let go of everything. That's the only way to survive. Final resolution moment, reclaiming control. It felt surreal. The life I had known, the life I had worked so hard to build, it was all gone in an instant. There was no going back. The life I had once envisioned for myself, the future I had planned, It was all a lie. But there was no time to mourn. I had a choice. Fight back or become a pawn in someone else's game. We'll protect you, Lily said, her voice soft but resolute. You won't have to do this alone, but you have to trust us, Sophia. I looked at the people in the room, Lily, James, and the others. They were my new reality now. They were the ones who would help me navigate this dark, twisted world I had been pulled into. And I would fight. For my life, for my future, and for the truth. I wasn't just going to let them take me down. As the night settled in, I took a deep breath, trying to focus on what lay ahead. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about reclaiming control, not just of my finances or my future, but of my life. The war wasn't over. It was only just beginning. And I was going to win. I couldn't move. I was frozen in place as the man in the doorway, James, spoke those chilling words. We've found her. Found me? My heart lurched. The fear that had been simmering beneath the surface suddenly exploded, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But there was no way out. Not now, not when I was surrounded by people who knew far more than I did. Lily's eyes darted to the door, her expression hardening. James's cold gaze flickered to me for a brief moment, and the look in his eyes sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just about my bank account anymore. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I had so many questions, but they all got tangled in my throat. The silence in the room was suffocating. I was suffocating. James finally broke the silence, his voice steady but dangerous. They know we're here, and they won't stop until they've gotten everything they need from you. This isn't just a mistake. You're caught up in something bigger than you think. Lily didn't flinch. James is right, but we're not going to let them take you without a fight. You have to understand, Sophia, you're the key to something much bigger. I felt my pulse thudding in my ears. What do you mean I'm the key? I don't even know what's going on here. I'm just trying to figure out why someone took money from my account. My life was normal until today. James stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Normal? Your life was never normal, Sophia. You just didn't know it. I shook my head, trying to process everything. This doesn't make sense. My family is normal. We're just like everyone else. Lily's face softened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. But it quickly vanished, replaced by something else. Urgency. You're right, Sophia. Your family tried to be normal. They wanted you to believe everything was fine, but it wasn't. They were part of something far darker, and so are you. I backed away slightly, my legs unsteady. No, this isn't real. My family would never do that. You're wrong, James said quietly. They weren't always in the shadows. Your grandfather, he was one of the founding members of an organization that's been pulling strings for decades. It's not just about power or wealth. It's about control. And you were always meant to be part of it. I stared at him, barely able to breathe. My grandfather was involved in this thing, but I don't remember anything about this. Why would they keep it from me? Lily stepped closer, her voice softer but firm. Because they had to. Your family was trying to shield you, keep you away from this life. But now it's out in the open, and you're caught in the middle. They think you're a tool, a pawn they can use to gain control of a much bigger operation. I felt like the floor had been pulled out from under me. A pawn? Me? But I don't have anything to do with any of this. I don't want any part of whatever it is you're talking about. James was unrelenting. It's too late, Sophia. You were always meant to be part of this world. The moment you were born, you were linked to the organization. Your family's connections were never just for their benefit. They were preparing you, training you, even if you didn't realize it. Lily, who had been silent for a few moments, now spoke, her voice urgent. You're the heir to something, Sophia, and they've been preparing you for it your entire life. I don't understand, I whispered, my thoughts swirling. How could they do this to me? Why didn't they tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me the truth? Lily glanced at James, her eyes filled with regret, then back at me. Because they thought you were safe. They thought they could protect you from this life. But now that they know you're awake to the truth, they're not going to let you go without a fight. Who's they? I asked, desperate for any answers. Who are these people? James's gaze grew colder. The people behind this operation are far-reaching. They control things you wouldn't even believe. Financial institutions, governments, organizations. You're a key player in their game, and now they know you're awake. They'll do anything to bring you back under their control. I stood there, stunned. My life, my family, everything I thought I knew, it was all a lie. My heart raced. I felt like I was suffocating, trapped in a world I didn't recognize. Are you saying they've been controlling my life this whole time? My parents, my grandfather, they were all part of this? I asked, my voice shaking. Lily looked at me with a pained expression. Yes, but they never wanted you to know. They wanted you to live a normal life. They wanted you to be free, but now you know. Now you're involved, and there's no turning back. I was struggling to breathe, the weight of the situation pressing on me from all sides. So what now? What am I supposed to do? You're telling me that my family is involved in something criminal, something dangerous, and I'm supposed to just accept it? James stepped forward, his voice low and steady. You don't have a choice, Sophia. The moment you learned about the withdrawal, you were already in too deep. They're coming for you now. It's only a matter of time before they make their move. I couldn't think clearly, I couldn't focus. Everything around me felt distorted. The room, the people, my own thoughts, they were all out of reach, spinning too fast for me to catch up. Lily saw the panic in my eyes. You need to trust me, Sophia. We need to get you out of here. The longer you stay, the more dangerous it becomes. You can't keep running from the truth. You have to face it head on. I looked at her, then at James, both of them trying to keep me calm, but there was no calming the storm that was raging inside me. My mind kept racing back to my family, my parents, my grandparents. They were supposed to protect me. But now it felt like they had set me up for something darker, something far beyond anything I could have imagined. The door to the office creaked open, and suddenly, the room was filled with a chilling presence. I didn't have to look to know who it was. They've found us, James said. His voice was tense and his eyes darkened. We need to move, now. Lily's expression hardened. They're getting closer. It's time to disappear. I felt a surge of panic. Disappear? How was I supposed to disappear? How could I leave my life behind like this? But before I could ask another question, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, louder now, closer. They've found us, Lily repeated, her voice steady but urgent. Move. We ran toward the back exit, my heart racing with every step. The sound of approaching footsteps was getting louder. I had no idea who was chasing us or how close they were. But one thing was certain. I couldn't stay here. James opened the back door and we slipped out into the night. The cold air hit my skin, but it barely registered. My mind was spinning. Who was I running from? What was I running toward? As we raced through the shadows, I realized there was no turning back. The truth was out, and I couldn't outrun it. I could only face it and fight. The moment the door opened, I knew it wasn't going to be good. The heavy footsteps outside the office, the hurried whispers of voices from the hallway, each sound escalated my panic. They had found us. The man standing in the doorway wasn't a stranger. He was just as intimidating as James, maybe more so. His dark, piercing eyes scanned the room, locking onto me. My heart skipped a beat, and for a split second I thought I might pass out. The air felt thick, and the walls seemed to close in. James, the man said coldly, you're not as careful as you think. Lily didn't move. She just stood there, watching the man like she knew this moment would come, like she had been expecting him. Her expression was hard to read, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, regret, or maybe it was fear. I couldn't tell. I didn't know who this man was, but I could feel the tension in the room thickening with every passing second. James's voice cut through the silence, steady and controlled. What do you want, Cole? I want her, Cole said, his voice smooth but with a cold undertone that made my blood run cold. Sophia, it's time. I took an instinctive step backward. Time for what? I choked out, trying to mask the panic clawing at my throat. Cole's eyes flicked to me, almost in amusement, before he turned back to Lily and James. She knows too much. Now, we need to finish what we started. Lily's gaze never wavered, but I could see the hint of conflict in her eyes. She knew this moment was coming, she'd been preparing for it all along, but I wasn't ready. I hadn't signed up for any of this, I hadn't asked for the truth, and now, here I was being hunted by strangers and forced to face a past I never even knew existed. Finish what you started? I asked, my voice a strained whisper. What are you talking about? What does that even mean? James's eyes flicked to Cole before returning to me. It's about your family, Sophia. Your grandfather set everything in motion, and now you're part of it. I felt my stomach drop. My grandfather? What are you talking about? What did he set in motion? Lily stepped forward, her voice steady but urgent. Your family was always part of something bigger, something much more dangerous than you realize. Your grandfather, he wasn't just a businessman. He was one of the founding members of a covert organization that's been pulling strings behind the scenes for decades. I shook my head in disbelief. No, you're lying. My grandfather was just an ordinary man. He worked hard for what he had. Cole chuckled softly, but there was no warmth in his laugh. Ordinary men don't amass the kind of power your grandfather did. Your family has been involved in a web of influence, manipulation, and control for generations, and now it's time for you to take your place. I felt the world spinning around me. My mind raced as I tried to process what they were telling me. My family, the people I thought I knew, the people I trusted, had been part of something this dark for years, and I had no idea. It's true, Lily said, her voice quieter now, as if she was letting me absorb the weight of what she was saying. And you were always meant to inherit the legacy. You are the heir. Your role in this world is more significant than you realize. Cole stepped further into the room, his gaze locking onto mine as he spoke, his voice smooth but menacing. You're more powerful than you think, Sophia. You're not just a pawn in their game, you're a queen, and they'll do anything to make sure you don't step out of line. Lily's face hardened as she met Cole's eyes. Enough, Cole. We're not going down this road again. Cole smirked. You can't protect her forever, Lily. She's the key to everything. And now, she knows too much. She can't just walk away from this. I was trying to piece everything together, but my thoughts were fragmented. So, what now? What do you want from me? Why is my family tied up in all of this? Cole's expression didn't shift. You were always meant to lead. The organization has been growing for decades. But without you, it's incomplete. Your bloodline, it's essential. You are the bridge to their ultimate power. And now, they're ready to take everything from you. The weight of his words settled over me like a lead blanket, suffocating me. I wasn't just a victim here. I wasn't just a girl who'd had her account compromised. I was part of something bigger. Something dangerous. And everything I had believed about my life was a lie. I felt dizzy. My knees felt weak beneath me, but I stood tall, trying to ignore the pounding of my heart. So what do I do now? Just accept this and become whatever you want me to be? Lily moved closer, her voice softening. Sophia, this isn't something you can just accept. You need to make a choice. They're coming for you. They'll stop at nothing to control you, but you can't let them win. I clenched my fists, my mind swirling with rage. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me any of this before? Lily's expression darkened. Because we didn't want to pull you into this world. We thought we could protect you, but it's too late now. The truth is out, and now you're a target. You have to decide. Will you fight, or will you let them take everything from you? I looked at Lily, then at James, then at Cole, whose expression remained unreadable. I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of it all. I don't have a choice, do I? I whispered. No, Cole answered, his voice cold. But it's not too late to play your part. Lily turned to me, her voice filled with conviction. Sophia, you have a chance to change everything, but it won't be easy. You have to be strong. You can't back down now. I stood there, my mind racing. This wasn't just about me anymore. My family, my future, it was all part of this web of deceit, control, and manipulation. Cole moved closer, his eyes hard. You don't have time. They're closing in. If you don't make your decision now, it's over. I felt the pressure building on my chest, in my mind, everywhere. I had to make a decision. Would I fight back, or would I let them win? Without another word, I made my choice. I turned to Lily, my voice steady but filled with a new resolve. I'll fight. I won't let them control me. I'm not just going to sit back and let this happen. Lily's eyes softened and she nodded. Then let's get to work. Cliffhanger, the final push. Before we could make a move, there was a loud crash at the door. The next few seconds felt like slow motion. I could hear the pounding of footsteps, the sound of the door rattling. They've found us. James's face tightened. It's time to move, now. The van roared down the highway, tires screeching on the wet road as we sped away from the safe house. The organization had found us. I could hear the pounding of my heart in my ears as I sat in the back of the van, my mind still reeling from everything I had learned in the last few hours. My family, my past, my role in this twisted, dangerous world, everything I had once believed about my life was a lie. Lily, who had been silent for the last few minutes, turned to face me. Her eyes, usually so steady, were now filled with something I hadn't seen before, concern. Sophia, she began softly, you're in danger now more than ever, but this is where your life changes. I glanced at her, struggling to breathe, still processing the weight of everything. How did this happen? How did I become the center of all this? You were always meant to be. Lily replied, her voice low but filled with certainty. Your grandfather, your family, they set everything in motion. You were born into this. You were always meant to lead. But I never asked for any of this. I snapped, the frustration bubbling over. I just wanted to live my life. Lily's gaze softened. And you should have. You should have had the choice, but they took that from you. I clenched my fists. So, what now? Do I just step into my grandfather's shoes and take over this whole operation? Or do I walk away and let them control me? Lily shook her head. You can't walk away, Sophia. They won't let you. They never let anyone walk away. But you can choose how to fight. That's the difference. I looked out the van window, the city lights blurring past. How could I fight back when everything around me seemed designed to trap me? How could I take control of my life again after learning all this? But one thing was clear. I couldn't let them win. I couldn't be a puppet in someone else's game. I leaned back in my seat, my mind racing. The reality of what was happening hit me like a freight train. They were after me. They wanted to control me. The people behind the organization, they weren't just powerful. They were everywhere. How do we stop them? I asked, the words coming out sharper than I intended. How do I even begin to fight back? James, who had been sitting across from me in the van, finally spoke up, his voice gravelly. We fight the same way they do. We go underground. We pull the strings. We gather the people who are on our side. The people who trust you, Lily added, her eyes meeting mine. We have allies, people who want to bring this operation down, but we need you to lead them. You can't be passive anymore. You have to step into the role they've tried to force on you. I stared at her, my mind still in a fog. Was I ready for this? I had no choice but to be. I had no choice but to fight for the life that had been stolen from me. I thought back to everything that had been taken from me, the trust, the sense of security, my family's lies. It was all so much to process, but it was clear now. This was my fight, my destiny, whether I liked it or not. The van pulled off the main highway, heading down a narrow road toward a new location. A safe house. Or so they said. I turned to James, my voice steady but filled with resolve. I'm in. I'm going to fight. Lily nodded, a hint of a smile pulling at the corner of her lips. We'll make sure they regret ever underestimating you. We arrived at the new location, an unassuming house on the outskirts of the city. The people inside were a mix of faces I recognized and others I didn't. But they all shared one thing in common: they were ready to take down the organization. We spent the next few days preparing, gathering intel, going over the network of people who were secretly against the organization, just like us. I knew there were many who were scared, afraid to speak out, too deeply embedded in the web of power, but I was going to change that. The stakes were higher now. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore, I was fighting for everyone who had been silenced, manipulated, and controlled by the organization for so long. I spent hours with Lily and James, learning about the inner workings of the group. The more I learned, the more I understood how powerful they truly were. But I wasn't backing down. I was going to take them down from the inside. There was no turning back. Not anymore. But as the days passed, the weight of my decision started to settle in. The future wasn't going to be easy, and the danger was only going to increase. But the choice was clear. I was no longer a pawn. I was a player. Weeks passed. I continued to train, to prepare, but I also began to strategize. I was learning everything I could about the organization, about how they operated, and how I could disrupt their power structure from the inside. But I also knew that the harder I fought, the more dangerous it would become. The people I loved, the ones I trusted, they were in danger too. Every move I made could risk their lives. One night, as I sat alone in the safe house, reviewing the intel, I had a moment of clarity. This wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about the fight. It was about something far bigger: justice. I couldn't change the past, but I could control the future. The sound of a door opening snapped me out of my thoughts. Lily entered the room, her face serious but her eyes softer than before. "You're ready," she said, her voice steady. I looked up at her, standing tall, my mind focused. "We do this on our terms." She smiled just a little and nodded. "On your terms." The time had come. We gathered the team, the few trusted allies we had, and set our plan into motion. The operation wasn't going to be easy, but we had the element of surprise on our side. And we had me, Sophia Walker, heir to the legacy of the most dangerous organization in the world. I had once been terrified by the weight of my family's history, but now I was ready to use it to my advantage. As we moved into position, I took one last look around the room. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. I stepped forward, my heart pounding with adrenaline, but my mind clear. I was in control. And for the first time, I felt like I could breathe.
Did she make the right choice? What would you have done in her shoes? Comment below.